Good morning, everybody. We are going to do just a little bit of some science notes to go along with the reading that you did yesterday. You watched, hopefully, the video with Mrs. Campbell yesterday on changes in ecosystems. This is a new short unit to go along with the ecosystems unit we just finished. So in yesterday's video, we heard about some ways that there can be natural events that change an ecosystem. Do you remember what some of those events are? You might see the pictures here to jog your memory. A forest fire is one example. A forest fire can actually help an ecosystem if it's controlled, because it will actually enrich the soil after all of these plants or all of these trees have died off. The ash actually is really good and rich for the soil, and it makes way for new plants to crop up. A beaver's dam changes an ecosystem because it actually can create new water areas, like having this walled off section, a dammed off section that's like a new pond, where a whole new ecosystem can flourish. It can also have a negative effect because it changes the ecosystem that once was there. However, there are some positive and some negative effects as things just continue changing over time. So let's take a look at, we're going to open up our notebooks, and the notes that you'll take for the changes in ecosystem whole unit, which is just going to be a couple of weeks, right, until Christmas break, basically. The notes that we're going to take are going to go in the same section of your science notebook as ecosystem notes. And I am looking for an online form of this book, and I still don't have one yet, but as soon as I do find one, I'll post it in Bright Thinker so that you can read this if you want after the videos. Okay, so we've got sections of the book that we're going to take notes on. Natural events. Natural events are things like floods, winds, droughts, which is a time of no rain, earthquakes, volcanoes, which we've been talking about in history, like with Mount Vesuvius, and forest fires, which we were mentioning down here, are all natural events that can change an ecosystem. We'll also be writing about how living things like specific plants and animals can change an ecosystem. Okay, so in your science notes, we're going to create a little bit of a chart. So let's write our heading at the top. December 4th, over here. Science changes in ecosystems. I'm going to have to write that on 2 lines. Okay. So basically, we're just going to have some natural events listed and a picture to go with that natural events. For natural events, we'll say natural events that can change ecosystems. And underline the natural events part because that's specifically what we're going to focus on. So one of the ways that a natural event could create change in an ecosystem is the forest fire. So we're just going to write forest fire. the first type of natural event, one of the types of natural events that can change an ecosystem by enriching the soil. So you can just draw a little picture, simple picture of a forest fire. There's some kind of trees with dead branches. And I'll get some colored pencils out even to show kind of the flames. Okay, there's a forest fire, but it enriches the soil. So I'm just going to draw a little arrow to say enriches soil to show the effect, the positive effect that a forest fire can have. As we mentioned in class the other day, there are certainly some forest fires that are not good for an ecosystem, though. If they're not controlled and they just keep spreading, then it kills off the trees that like animals are dependent on, and which help with the nitrogen cycle, as we've talked about as well. So forest fires is one example. A drought is another example of a natural event that can change things. And for this, I'm just going to draw raindrops and then just put an X over it. No rain. Actually, you know what might be better as a picture of this? I'll draw a cloud. And then an X over it. Cloud with raindrops. And according to the assignment we were supposed to do for this, you weren't going to write the effects of all of these. However, I think it's helpful to have that. So we could say on the side, kills plants and animals. A drought can kill plants and animals. Okay. As a third example of a natural event, right, volcano. And a volcano is not an actual natural event, so we'll say volcanic eruption, actually. Been learning a little bit about volcanoes in history with Mount Vesuvius, which destroyed Pompeii. So that affected the city of Pompeii and the people there, but it also affected the ecosystem because it actually is like it can destroy a lot of things, but then just like the forest fire, the ash is actually really good and it enriches the soil. So it actually can be very good, but it takes a little bit of time and it possibly will destroy things first. So we can just draw an example of a volcano. With kind of some lava. Maybe some coming down the sides. I'll put good for soil. Or I guess I could have said enriches soil again. Okay, so those are three natural events. And one of the living things that we talked about as an example of something that can change ecosystems is the beaver that creates a dam. So we'll write that as a separate one. We had natural events up here. So this would include like storms, forest fire, drought, volcanic eruption, and then living things. So we'll make that a separate part of your page. So for living things that can cause changes, a beaver is one example. creating a dam would be one example. Okay, so if this is like a river flowing, could draw kind of some logs making a dam across the river. So it stops the flow of water. Actually, we could even maybe not do any water flowing on this side because it actually stops that flow of water. So looking at the book to see one other example. And then the other one that was mentioned in the book is just plants changing in ecosystem, because if there are new plants that arise within an ecosystem, sorry, I'm just looking through the book to see some of the specific ones that they gave examples. It can change the types of animals that live in that ecosystem. So if there's a lot of grass, for example, certain animals will want to be in that type of field, like cows, for example, would do well in a really grassy field. Whereas if there's a lot of trees, then that's a different ecosystem altogether that would be better for example, birds or other animals that need shelter. So we'll write, and then it also is talking about diseases in plants and animals can change ecosystems. So just draw picture of some plants. You could draw like a bird sitting, terrible bird, but little bird sitting on a branch, and some grass to show just the concept of that changing an ecosystem. Okay, and I don't have really effects for these ones, but it just changes the types of animals that can live within this ecosystem. For example, if there is a beaver creating a dam, or new plants that are arising within an ecosystem. So that is all for today. We are going to be continuing this, and feel free to pause if you need more time on any part of this. Let's see if I can get this whole part. Okay, that's the natural events. There's living things. We're going to continue this for the next couple of weeks. This is a really short little unit, but we'll continue talking about specific changes within an ecosystem, especially some harmful changes in the future. We'll talk about like pollution and how that affects negatively a lot of ecosystems, and some things that we can do to take better care of our environment. So that is all for today. Please have those notes in your notebook, same section once again as we did before. This is all just one ecosystem section. And I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day. Talk to you later. Bye.